Hugh Jackman, the blockbuster star of Deadpool and Wolverine, appeared on Jimmy Kimmel Live to promote the upcoming hit, but no one expected the interview to quickly turn into a tense confrontation. From seemingly harmless questions, the atmosphere grew hotter than ever. The climax? Hugh abruptly left the stage, leaving the audience in utter shock. What really happened under the stage lights? A small conflict that spiraled out of control in just minutes. Before diving into the story, comment where you're watching from, and don't forget to subscribe so you won't miss the latest stories. The Jimmy Kimmel Live stage was ablaze with lights, the sound of applause still echoing as Hugh Jackman sat down in the guest chair, a friendly smile but sharp eyes. Jimmy Kimmel, with his seasoned host charisma, kicked things off with a question about Deadpool and Wolverine. "So how's this movie, Hugh? Working with Ryan Reynolds must be a wild ride, right?" Hugh nodded, his warm, deep voice recounting behind-the-scenes moments when Ryan tried to make him crack up during serious takes. The audience roared with laughter, the vibe as cozy as a friendly chat. But Sarah, standing in the wings, sensed a subtle shift in the production team's eyes. She clenched her fists, knowing they were waiting for the moment to strike. Jimmy, getting a cue through his earpiece from director Mike, shifted his tone, his smile turning sly. "Come on, Hugh. Are you finally done with the single life, or are you still busy being a superhero on and off the screen?" Hugh tilted his head, his smile fading, his voice still soft but sharp. "I'm here to talk about the movie, Jimmy. Deadpool and Wolverine is a story about friendship, about overcoming challenges." The audience clapped, a few shouting Wolverine. But Jimmy, under pressure from Mike, didn't back off. "Come on, Hugh. The audience wants something juicier." Jimmy winked, reaching for a pair of plastic Wolverine claws from the desk, holding them up like a trophy. "Put these on, give us a classic Wolverine moment. The fans will go nuts." The crowd cheered, but Hugh didn't budge, his eyes growing colder. "I think they'd rather hear about the meaning of the movie than see me play the fool," he said, his voice calm but laced with steel. Jimmy sensed Hugh's resistance. He let out a big laugh, trying to use his familiar humor to diffuse the thickening tension. All right, no need to unleash the claws," he said, his tone tinged with mockery. "But hey, we've got a little surprise for you." The stage lights dimmed. The LED screen behind them lit up. A video montage flooded the screen. Clips from X-Men, Les Miserables, The Greatest Showman, iconic roles, dazzling moments. But then, the footage cut abruptly. Tabloid headlines flashed. Hugh Jackman's shocking divorce. Mystery romance with Sutton Foster. A cheerful voiceover boomed. "He's Wolverine, he's Jean Valjean, he's P.T. Barnum, and now Hollywood's most eligible bachelor." Laughter erupted from the audience, but it was uneven. Some hesitated. The atmosphere began to shift from entertainment to unease. Hugh sat motionless, his hands gripped the armrests, knuckles white, his icy gaze fixed on the screen, as if he could burn through every flickering frame. He took a deep breath, then cut in. Right as the video was still playing, "Jimmy," he said, his voice even and low but forceful, "I came here to talk about Deadpool and Wolverine. This is a movie about getting back up after loss, about real friendship, about the things that keep us human, not to be a punchline for a few views." His words sliced through the air. The studio fell silent. Then from the audience, a smattering of applause broke out. Sparse at first, then spreading. A fan shouted, "Well said, Hugh." Jimmy, caught off guard, flashed an awkward smile. He tried to regain the rhythm, retreating to his safe zone. "Come on, Hugh. Just a little fun to lighten the mood. How about you sing a bit from The Greatest Showman to get everyone hyped?" Hugh leaned forward, his eyes locking onto Jimmy. "No, I'm not here to be a sideshow. I'm here to share something meaningful." His voice wasn't loud, but its resolve made the entire studio pause. Jimmy, trying to keep the upper hand, tapped the desk, his tone tinged with irritation. "Hugh, this is an entertainment show. The audience wants you relaxed, having fun." But Hugh didn't yield. "Entertainment doesn't mean you get to turn my work and life into a joke," he said, his voice sharp as a blade. The room seemed to vibrate beneath its entertainment veneer, applause mixing with boos to form a storm of sound. The air was thick, charged, ready to erupt. Hugh Jackman sat upright in the guest chair, back straight, his eyes glinting with a cold edge, pinning Jimmy Kimmel, who was struggling to hold on to the last threads of control. Jimmy felt the tremor spreading like a shockwave. He forced a smile, lips curved but eyes uneasy. His voice pitched higher than usual, as if hoping levity could douse the smoldering tension. "Hugh, I get it. You want to talk about the movie, the art, but this is a talk show. People come here to laugh, to have fun." He spread his arms toward the audience, like a final plea for support. A few scattered cheers responded, feeble, trying to cling to the earlier vibe, but they were quickly drowned out by booming chants from the front rows. Hugh didn't move. His hands rested on his thighs, thumb tapping lightly, steadily, like a clock counting down to something breaking. His voice rang out, low but sharp as honed steel. "Fun?" He lifted his head, his gaze piercing through the camera lens. "Fun isn't digging into someone's personal life for cheap laughs. I came here to share a story, not to let you turn it into clickbait." A moment of stunned silence. Then from the crowd an older woman with glasses stood up, clapping furiously, her voice trembling but fierce. "That's right, Hugh. Speak the truth." From a corner of the audience, a group of younger fans shouted back, mocking, "Come on, it's just entertainment." On stage, Jimmy was trapped in the fragile buffer between the spotlight and the crowd. He glanced quickly toward the wings, where a producer was signaling frantically, "Keep going, keep going." In the control room, Mike, the director with a hunger for a breakout moment, was nearly manic. He slammed his hand on the desk, yelling into the headset mic, "This is gold, Jimmy. Push it." The cameras are rolling. Views are spiking by the second. The screen showed live view counts soaring, numbers dancing like blood pumping through the heart of a media monster. In the corner of the room, Lila, the production assistant, bit her lip until it bled. She stared at the monitor where Hugh's face was a mix of fury and hurt. She whispered to the person beside her, her voice trembling, "We're ruining everything." But no one heard, or no one wanted to hear anymore. Sarah, backstage, stepped toward a production staff member, her voice shaking with anger. "Tell Jimmy to stop, he's going too far." The staffers shook their head, signaling that the orders came from above. Sarah turned back to the monitor, seeing Hugh lean forward, his eyes never leaving Jimmy. "I've spent my career building stories with heart," Hugh said, his voice now like a cut, not loud but piercing. "Deadpool and Wolverine isn't just a movie. It's about standing up, about friendship, about things bigger than your cheap jokes." Jimmy, backed into a corner, abandoned his usual host persona. He stood up, stepped closer to the edge of the desk, his voice higher and sharper. "Listen, Hugh, I respect you, but this is my stage, and we have a way of doing things. The audience wants you relaxed, not preaching." Jimmy's words were like pouring fuel on the fire. A shrill whistle rang out from the corner of the room, followed by a shout. "That's right, Jimmy. Keep going." But Hugh didn't back down. He stood, tall and commanding, his gaze cutting through Jimmy, through the stage lights. "Your stage?" Hugh asked, his voice low but resonant. "I came here for the audience, not to be your puppet. If you want respect, start by listening." The room erupted. A group of loyal fans shot to their feet, shouting, "Hugh, we love you." A middle-aged man raised his fist, as if cheering on a fighter. But some audience members, there for the drama, booed. "Lighten up, Hugh." Sarah, in the wings, gripped the railing, whispering to herself, "Keep going, Hugh. Don't let them win." In the control room, Mike laughed loudly, barking orders. "Close up on Hugh now. This is the viral moment." Lila, unable to take it, turned away, feeling like she was betraying Hugh herself. Jimmy, face flushed, tried to regain his composure. He sat down, tapping his fingers on the desk, his voice lower but still sharp. "Hugh, no one's trying to make you a joke. We just want to bring people joy." But Hugh shook his head, stepping closer, his eyes locked on Jimmy. "Joy? You call digging into my personal life, turning my work into a joke, joy?" he asked, his voice now carrying a deep disappointment. "I respect the audience, Jimmy. I expect you to do the same." Jimmy, feeling the pressure from the crowd, tried to take back control. He stood tall, took a step toward Hugh, hands braced on the desk, as if staking his territory. "Listen, Hugh," he said, his voice higher, tinged with irritation, but still trying to sound professional. "I respect you. The whole world knows you're a legend. But this is an entertainment show, and the audience expects a little fun, a little sincerity. Our way." He emphasized sincerity, with a forced smile, as if trying to turn the tide. But Hugh, standing firm, didn't waver. He tilted his head, eyes unblinking, his voice low but sharp as a honed blade. "Sincerity? You think dragging my personal life out for laughs is sincerity? I came here to talk about a movie with heart, about values bigger than the nonsense you're trying to push." Hugh's words were like a spark igniting a tank of emotional gasoline. The audience reacted instantly. A group of loyal fans shot to their feet, clapping thunderously. A man shouted, "That's right, Hugh, show them." But in another corner where people came for cheap drama, the boos rang out even louder. "Come on, just have fun, Hugh." Backstage, Sarah rushed toward a producer, her voice choked with anger. "Tell Jimmy to stop. He's backing Hugh into a corner." The producer, pale-faced, stared at the monitor without blinking. "No way," he shook his head. "Mike wants to keep going. The ratings are through the roof." Sarah turned back, her eyes glued to the monitor. On stage, Hugh took a step toward Jimmy. His gaze burned, not with anger, but with the fire of a man who had reached his limit. "I've spent my life telling stories that move people's hearts," Hugh said, his voice now deep as a chasm yet ringing like a bell. "Deadpool and Wolverine isn't meant to be a clickbait montage. It's about friendship, about loss, and about standing up when you think you have nothing left. Don't you see that?" The studio fell silent. No more laughter, no more whispers, just Hugh, and the truth resonating through every word he spoke. Jimmy swallowed hard. Cornered, he raised his hands as if to calm both Hugh and the audience, his voice now tinged with bitterness. "Hugh, I respect you really. But the audience here, they want to see you laugh, to see you be human." He turned to the crowd as if seeking allies, but Hugh shook his head. He took another step, standing tall, solid as a bronze statue. His voice was a declaration. "Human, I'm human when I stand here and speak the truth. I don't need to wear fake claws or answer cheap questions to prove who I am." The room erupted. Applause roared like thunder, drowning out the scattered protests. A woman leapt to her feet, shouting, "Hugh, you're the best." Meanwhile, Jimmy stood there, silent. Not because he lost a verbal spar, but because he realized he'd touched something he shouldn't have traded. A man's dignity for a few minutes of airtime. Jimmy, his face flushed, stood frozen, gripping the mic tightly. He wasn't used to being challenged on his own stage. "Listen, Hugh," he said, his voice now almost sharp. "You're a guest. We invited you here, and this is how we do things. If you don't like it, maybe you shouldn't have come." His words hit like a bomb, leaving the audience breathless. A piercing whistle cut through from one corner, followed by a shout, "That's right, Jimmy." But Hugh didn't flinch. He stood tall, his gaze cutting through Jimmy, past the stage lights. "I came here for the audience, for the people who believe in my work," he said, his voice now carrying a deep disappointment. "But you, Jimmy, you're turning that into a game. What do you think the audience wants? A puppet or a real person?" Jimmy took a deep breath, trying to stay composed, then stepped away from the host's desk. His eyes, usually calm, now flickered with rare anger. "Hugh," he said, his voice trembling slightly but restrained, "no one here wants to diminish you. We invited you as an honored guest to bring laughter and joy to the audience. But if you don't want to play by the rules, maybe you picked the wrong stage." Hugh took a step toward Jimmy, his demeanor calm but his eyes blazing, sharp as knives under the stage lights. "Your rules?" he asked, his voice low, deliberate, like a tidal wave rising from the ocean's depths. "I didn't come here to be a punchline for your show, Jimmy. I came to talk about something that actually matters, about loyalty, about human resilience in the face of loss. But all you want is sensational clips, cheap view counts." A murmur spread through the audience like wildfire. Jimmy, no longer maintaining his usual composure, pointed straight at Hugh, his voice rising, forgetting the mic was still live. "Meaning," he nearly shouted, "you're ruining this show, Hugh. We invited you here with respect, but you can't come in here acting like everything revolves around you." The audience exploded. On one side, thunderous applause erupted, a woman shouting emotionally, "Hugh, you're the real one here." In the opposite corner, younger audience members yelled, "Get out of here, Hugh!" The room split in two, a silent war between fame and values, between the glitz of television and the honest voice of an artist who refused to bow. Hugh shook his head, his eyes now carrying a disappointment deeper than anger. "I'm not giving orders, Jimmy," he said, his voice like a river, deep and powerful. "I just want you to respect my work, to respect the audience who deserve to hear the truth, not some spectacle for clicks." His words shook the room, met with thunderous applause from loyal fans, while others whistled in protest. A child, sitting next to his mother in the front row, looked at Hugh with awe, as if seeing a superhero step off the screen. The stage lights blazed, but they couldn't erase the chaos. Fervent applause mixed with piercing boos, like waves crashing in the divided room. Hugh Jackman stood unyielding, his piercing gaze sweeping over Jimmy Kimmel, who fell silent after Hugh's declaration, "If that's not respected, I don't need this stage." Hugh didn't rush. He turned to face the audience, his steps steady, as if each one was carved into the stage. His eyes, deep calm, were like a lighthouse in the swirling storm around him. He took a long breath, then spoke, low, clear, as if each word was chiseled in stone. "The reason I'm here today isn't to entertain. I came to share something real, something that touches hearts, not screens. Thank you to those still listening, instead of just watching." His words hit the room like a hammer striking the already taut air, and then it broke loose. The front rows leapt to their feet, applause roared like thunder. A young woman screamed, tears glistening, "You're a legend, Hugh." An older man raised his fist, his face glowing as if reconnecting with his younger self. But in the back, the dissenting young crowd didn't back down. Their whistles pierced the air. Someone shouted, "Go home, old man." On stage, Jimmy stood rooted. His face paled, lips pressed so tight they were almost white. His hand gripped the mic as if it were the only thing keeping him from collapsing. He tried to salvage the mood, forcing an awkward laugh. "Well, quite a night, isn't it, folks?" The audience's laughter was sparse, falling like raindrops on dry concrete, not enough to refresh, only adding to the heavy air. Backstage in the control room, Mike, the show's director, was nearly delirious with excitement. His eyes were glued to the skyrocketing viewership graph. "We've got gold," he shouted, unable to hide his glee. But in a quiet corner, Lila, the production assistant, stood still. Her eyes brimmed, then tears rolled down her cheeks. She whispered as if to herself, "They've gone too far." Sarah, backstage, rushed toward a production staff member. Her voice choked. "What did you all do to him?" The staff member, head bowed, only shook his head, avoiding her gaze. Sarah turned back, watching Hugh walk slowly off the stage, each step like a silent proclamation. He didn't look back, his gaze resolute, as if he'd found freedom in standing up for himself. As Hugh entered the backstage area, Sarah ran after him, grabbing his hand. "You did the right thing, Hugh," she said, her voice trembling with emotion. "They can't break you." Hugh smiled, a sad but steadfast smile, his eyes still carrying a deep disappointment. He pulled out his phone, seeing a message from Ryan Reynolds. "Mate, you just shook up Hollywood. Proud of you." Hugh let out a soft chuckle, shaking his head, whispering, "Just wanted to do the right thing." He sat down in a waiting room chair, the dim light casting shadows on his face, highlighting the lines of a man who'd weathered many storms. In the control room, Mike was still jubilant, shouting through his headset, "Keep filming the audience, we need these reactions." But Lila, unable to take it anymore, left the room, stepping into the hallway, tears streaming down her face. She felt like she'd played a part in pushing Hugh to the edge. On stage, Jimmy tried to carry on with the show, segueing to a commercial with a faltering voice. "We'll be right back," he said, but his eyes were lost, as if he realized he'd just lost something greater than ratings. The audience quieted, but the air remained heavy, as if everyone knew they'd just witnessed a game-changing moment. Outside the studio, a crowd of reporters had gathered, camera flashes flickering as Hugh stepped out. He didn't stop, only giving a slight nod to Sarah, who stayed close, shielding him from the barrage of questions. "Hugh, any regrets?" a reporter shouted. He didn't answer, just stepped into the car, his gaze fixed out the window, contemplative. A post from a longtime fan went viral. Hugh Jackman just stood up for the truth. Kimmel never deserved him. The video of the incident racked up millions of views in minutes. In the car, Hugh held his phone, scrolling through posts. A comment from a young fan made him pause. "Thank you, Hugh, for showing us what matters." He smiled, a genuine smile, then put the phone away, looking out at the twinkling lights of Los Angeles. Sarah, sitting beside him, said softly, "You did it, Hugh. You made them think." Hugh nodded, his voice low. "I just want them to remember the real stories." The air in the car was quiet but powerful, as if Hugh had rediscovered himself amidst the storm. The sleek black SUV glided through the brightly lit streets of Los Angeles. Outside, the city buzzed as if nothing had happened. But inside the car, the air was thick, heavy, like the sky before a storm. Hugh Jackman sat in silence, his gaze fixed on the window. The skyscrapers passed by like ghostly shadows, large, cold, soulless. The incident at Jimmy Kimmel Live still burned like a fresh wound, not yet cooled, already spreading across social media. Sarah, his publicist, sat beside him scrolling rapidly on her phone, muttering, "Social media's exploding. You broke the internet, Hugh. The clip's going viral everywhere." Hugh didn't respond, just a slight nod, paired with a fleeting smile, faint as morning mist, hard to tell if it was a smile or just a reflex, but his eyes still held a deep, lingering unease, as if the media storm outside was only the tip of the iceberg he was about to face. Behind them, outside the studio, the crowd of reporters hadn't dispersed. Camera flashes flared relentlessly, like an unending barrage of fireworks. "Hugh, got anything to say?" a voice shouted from the jostling crowd, but Hugh didn't pause. He raised a hand briefly, stepped quickly into the car, the door slamming shut behind him like the final punctuation of a chaotic chapter. But social media never knows a full stop. One tweet, "Hugh's an icon. Kimmel just wants drama." Another fired back, "What? He thinks he's a guru. It's just a talk show." And harsher still, "Jackman should remember he's a guest. Nobody invited him to lecture anyone." Sarah kept scrolling. Her voice slowed as she read a standout comment. "Thank you, Hugh, for showing me art shouldn't be a joke. I'm proud to be your fan." Hugh gave a slight smile, the first real one since leaving the stage, but it was still tinged with melancholy. He spoke quietly, as if reminding himself, "They get it, but how many are just chasing the next shock?" Sarah placed a hand on his shoulder, her eyes full of resolve. "You did the right thing, and you made them stop and think. In this world, that's a victory." Hugh nodded, silently scrolling through his phone, pausing at a short, unembellished comment. "Thank you for being real, truly." He closed his eyes, taking a deep breath. Outside, LA still glittered, with its car lights and sleepless billboards. But in that moment, amidst the rush of the night, Hugh found something rare: silence. And within it, meaning. At the Jimmy Kimmel Live studio, the air remained stifling. Jimmy, after wrapping the show with an awkward commercial break, sat in the waiting room, head bowed. A post made him pause. Kimmel thought he could make Hugh a punchline. Big mistake. Jimmy tossed his phone onto the table, sighing. He remembered past times Hugh had appeared, always friendly, approachable, especially when co-hosting with Ryan Reynolds. "What did I do?" he muttered. The production team gathered in the control room, Mike still gloating, flaunting the viewership chart. "We just made history," he laughed loudly. But Lila, the young assistant, stood in the hallway, eyes red. "We went too far," she told a colleague, her voice choked. Hugh didn't deserve that. The next evening, on a new episode of Jimmy Kimmel Live, Jimmy tried to make amends. He opened with an apology, his voice striving for sincerity. "About last night, I want to say we really value Hugh Jackman. Things may have gone too far, and I'm sorry if we upset him." But the apology was criticized as half-hearted. One post read, "Kimmel apologizes but sounds like he's blaming Hugh. So disappointing." Another fan commented, "Hugh stood up for art, while Kimmel only cares about ratings." The video of Jimmy's apology spread, but most comments sided with Hugh. Meanwhile, Hugh returned to his hotel, the city lights reflecting through the window. He received a message from Sutton Foster. "You were incredible tonight. Don't let them shake you." Hugh smiled, replying briefly, "Thanks, love, I'm okay." Ryan Reynolds texted too. You just made Hollywood take a hard look at itself. So proud, mate." Hugh chuckled, feeling lighter. He opened social media, seeing countless posts from fans worldwide, from Australia to New York, supporting him. A post from a young fan moved him. "Hugh, you reminded me we have to stay true to ourselves. Thank you." The media storm kept spreading. Outlets like TMZ and Variety reported, "Hugh Jackman versus Kimmel, drama or respect?" Some criticized Hugh as too serious, but most praised him for defending his values. An article from a prominent journalist garnered thousands of shares. Hugh Jackman did what few stars dare. He stood up to the media machine. Los Angeles was awash in neon lights, but in the quiet hotel room, Hugh Jackman sat in contemplation, the soft glow of a desk lamp illuminating his face. The uproar at Jimmy Kimmel Live had left ripples, like waves spreading across a lake. His phone lit up with notifications, but Hugh didn't check them right away. Instead, he gazed out the window, reflecting on the journey from the dazzling stage to the media storm. Sarah, his loyal publicist, had gone to her room, but not before saying, "You've changed how people see Hollywood." Hugh smiled, but his heart still wrestled. Could sincerity truly win in a world chasing drama? He opened his phone, scrolling through messages from close friends. Ryan Reynolds sent a fist bump emoji with the words, "You're a warrior, mate. Ready for boy band?" Sutton Foster texted, "You're an inspiration. Keep shining." The encouragements were like a gentle breeze, soothing his soul after the battle. Hugh replied briefly thanking them, then turned to X. A post from a young fan caught his eye. "Hugh, you made me believe art still matters. Never change." He paused, his gaze softening, feeling as if he'd found purpose amidst the whirlwind. The Hugh vs. Kimmel storm hadn't settled. Posts on X remained divided. Some praised Hugh for standing up. Others thought he was too sensitive. But the wave of support grew stronger. A fan-made video, splicing Hugh's exit from the stage with music from The Greatest Showman, racked up millions of views. Hugh chuckled when he saw it, whispering, "The audience always gets it." He knew the incident had grown beyond a talk show. It had become a symbol of fighting for truth in a calculating industry. The next day, Hugh flew to New York, where he was preparing for a new project, Boy Band, a comedy about friendship, co-starring Ryan Reynolds. On the plane, he jotted a few lines in his notebook, thoughts on art and an artist's responsibility. "Tell real stories," he wrote, "no matter what the world wants." As the plane landed, he felt a renewed strength, as if the Kimmel ordeal had forged him, making him more resolute than ever. At a Broadway theater a few days later, Hugh stood under the lights, preparing for a charity performance. The audience filled the auditorium, their applause like crashing waves as he stepped out. He didn't mention Kimmel, but his presence said it all. A man who wouldn't let drama define him. As he sang a song from The Music Man, his voice resonated, touching every heart. A young audience member whispered to a friend, "This is the real Hugh." After the show, he met fans, signed autographs, and chatted, his eyes lighting up as they shared how he inspired them. Meanwhile, in Los Angeles, Jimmy Kimmel carried on with his show, but the incident left its mark. He avoided mentioning Hugh in subsequent episodes, but his eyes sometimes seemed lost, as if reflecting on what was lost. A source on X revealed that Jimmy had called Hugh privately to apologize, though no one knew the details. Still, the audience debated, with one post stating, "Kimmel needs to learn to respect his guests. Hugh taught him a lesson." The story of the confrontation between Hugh Jackman and Jimmy Kimmel on Jimmy Kimmel Live reflects the tensions in American society today, where media and social media pressures often clash with personal values and sincerity. In the story, Hugh steadfastly defended the meaning of Deadpool and Wolverine, a film about friendship and resilience, against Jimmy's attempts to turn him into a punchline for views. Hugh's courage in walking off the stage despite security intervening, and his emphasis on "I'm here to share something truly meaningful," demonstrate the power of standing up for one's beliefs, even under public pressure. The Hugh vs. Kimmel wave on social media, with millions of likes supporting Hugh, reflects a segment of Americans yearning for authenticity in a world dominated by drama and viral content. Conversely, Jimmy's half-hearted apology and director Mike's glee over soaring ratings expose the tendency to prioritize commercial gain over ethics, a common issue in American media culture. The lesson is that in life, especially in America, where social media can amplify every action, we must learn to hold fast to personal values as Hugh did. Don't let public pressure or short-term gains overshadow what you believe in. Choose to tell real stories, whether in work or life, and respect others' values instead of chasing views or attention. Hugh's steadfastness, though it came at the cost of a public dispute, reminds us that living authentically will always leave a deeper mark than any viral moment. Thank you for joining us in the dramatic saga of Hugh Jackman and Jimmy Kimmel. Subscribe to the channel to not miss more authentic stories. See you in the next video, where we continue exploring unforgettable moments.